Have you ever wondered if some of your habits in old age are quietly pushing people away, but no one's telling you? Maybe conversations feel shorter than they used to. Maybe the calls don't come as often. Or maybe there's just a subtle change in how others respond, but you can't quite put your finger on why. As we grow older, we tend to settle into familiar routines. And while many of those habits bring comfort and stability, others, without us realizing, can create distance. Not because we mean harm, not because we've changed on purpose, but because the world around us is always shifting, and sometimes we don't notice how we've drifted from it. This isn't about being right or wrong. It's about awareness. It's about recognizing how small, unconscious behaviors can affect how others experience us, especially the ones we love most. And often the hardest part, no one tells you. In this video, we'll explore the emotional space between aging and connection. We won't name and shame. We'll reflect gently through stories, insight, and maybe even some unexpected truths. Before we dive in, take a moment to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so you never miss new reflections on growing older with grace and awareness. All right, let's begin. Number 1, when you stop taking care of yourself, others feel it before you do. James had always been the sharpest man on his street. A retired watchmaker in his early 80s, he used to wear a crisp shirt every morning and polish his shoes even just to walk to the mailbox. But somewhere along the way, after his wife passed and his knees started giving him trouble, he stopped. It wasn't sudden. First it was the hair uncombed, then it was the same sweater 3 days in a row. Eventually his neighbors' visits got shorter. The grandchildren didn't snuggle in as close. Here's the truth many won't say out loud. When we stop caring for our hygiene, people don't always tell us, but they do notice. And often they pull away, not because they don't love us, but because they don't know what to do with what it signals. And it's not just about physical cleanliness. It's about the message it sends. I don't care anymore. People interpret that, sometimes unconsciously, as giving up. And when they think you've given up on yourself, they may slowly stop engaging in the same warm way. That hurts, but it's also something you can gently shift. Let's be honest, getting older comes with challenges. Your body moves slower, energy drops. Sometimes it feels like too much trouble to iron a shirt or trim your nails. But those small habits carry big meaning. When you put on a clean top or brush your hair, you're saying to the world, I'm still here. I still value myself. And people feel that. Your presence feels different. You don't need fancy clothes or perfume. You just need to show you're still showing up for yourself. That quiet act of self-respect invites others to treat you with dignity. You see, before people respond to your words, they respond to your energy. And your self-care reflects that energy clearer than anything. I once had a patient, Mrs. Reynolds, 76 years old. She'd been skipping showers and wearing pajamas all day after losing her sister. When we spoke, I asked her gently what it would feel like to put on her favorite red blouse again. She cried. Not because of the blouse, but because she realized she missed feeling like herself. A week later, she walked into my office freshly dressed, and her daughter, who had been keeping her distance, hugged her longer than she had in months. It's never just about soap and clothes. It's about telling the people around you, I'm still me. And when they see that, they respond with warmth, with closeness, with respect. So if you've let a few things slide, forgive yourself. But start again. Start small. Fresh shirt, trimmed nails, brushed hair, because those little things aren't little. They're the way back to connection. If you found this part helpful, please subscribe to the channel and leave a comment below. If you have questions, share them, or simply comment one so I know you're still watching and here with me. Number 2, when speaking your mind turns into pushing people away. Helen had always been known for her sharp tongue. Even back in her teaching days, students would whisper, you better come prepared. Mrs. H doesn't sugarcoat anything. And to be honest, she was proud of that. She came from a time when people said what they meant and meant what they said. But now, at 79, her grown children weren't calling as often. Her neighbors waved but didn't linger. And her granddaughter stopped bringing friends over. She didn't understand why until one Thanksgiving dinner, her son quietly pulled her aside and said, "Mom, sometimes you hurt people without knowing it." It hit her hard. But he wasn't wrong. As we age, the little filter that once softened our words sometimes wears thin. We might think we're just being honest, but that honesty can sting, especially when it comes without compassion. You see, there's a difference between speaking truth and firing off opinions. The first connects, the second creates distance. And while we might feel entitled to say it like it is because we've lived long enough, that doesn't always mean it's helpful or welcomed. Maybe you've said something about someone's weight, or made a jab about how a younger parent is raising their kids. Maybe you offered advice no one asked for and said, "Back in my day, we didn't do it that way." Those comments might seem small to you, but to the listener, they may land like a slap. And here's the hard part. People rarely tell you when it hurts. They just stop showing up. One of my patients, Arthur, 82, told me proudly, "I don't have a filter anymore." But in the same breath, he admitted he hadn't spoken to his niece in 6 months. When we talked more, he realized his jokes at her expense had made her feel judged. He didn't mean to push her away, but he had. Words have power. Even when they're true, they need to be wrapped in care. So ask yourself before speaking, is this kind? Is it necessary? Is it mine to say? And remember, just because you think, it doesn't mean it needs to be said out loud. The most respected elders aren't the ones who speak the loudest. They're the ones who listen deeply, who share gently, who know when silence speaks more than words. And ironically, when you speak less, but with more kindness, people listen more. They lean in, they ask your opinion, because they trust it won't come with a sting. So don't give up your voice. Just tune it a little. Speak truth, but speak it with grace. That's the kind of wisdom people remember and return to. If this part resonated with you, go ahead and subscribe to the channel and leave a comment below. You can share your thoughts or simply comment too, so I know you're still here, still listening, still growing. Number 3, when what you wear tells people you've stopped showing up. Noah had always been a jeans and flannel guy. He was never flashy, never followed trends. But lately his clothes look different, not by style, but by condition. Shirts sagging at the shoulders, stains that never quite came out, pants hanging loose from a waist that had quietly shrunk with age. When his daughter came to take him to Sunday service, she gently asked, "Dad, maybe we should find you something that fits better." He waved her off with a chuckle. Who am I trying to impress at my age? But later that evening, as he caught his reflection in a window, something stirred. He didn't look like himself anymore. He looked like someone who'd stopped noticing. The truth is, clothes are never just fabric. They carry messages about how we see ourselves and about how we want others to see us. And when we stop caring about how our clothes fit, how they look, or how they reflect who we are now, not who we were 20 years ago, people around us quietly take note. This isn't about fashion. It's about presence. Our bodies change with age. Our posture shifts, our coloring fades, and comfort becomes more important than ever. But comfort shouldn't mean careless. A shirt that fits well, pants that feel good and look like they belong to today, not yesterday, can silently say, "I still value being part of this world." When you walk into a room dressed in a way that feels intentional, even just a little, people feel it. They react differently. They listen more closely. Not because you look young, but because you look alive. I once worked with a retired music teacher, Eleanor, who always wore the same oversized cardigan, even in summer. When I asked her why, she shrugged. "It's easy." But after a grandchild's wedding where she wore a lavender blouse and a fitted skirt, just for the photos, she told me afterward, "I forgot how nice it feels to feel seen." You don't have to wear a suit, but you also don't have to settle for what's hanging off your frame. Dressing with care is a quiet act of self-respect, and that respect ripples outward. It reminds your family, your community, and even yourself that you're still engaged, still here, still proud of who you are today, not just who you used to be. So if the clothes in your closet haven't changed in decades, maybe it's time to ask, do they still represent who I am now? Or am I dressing a version of myself I've outgrown? Because you deserve to feel seen, not just remembered. If this message meant something to you, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave a comment below. Whether you have something to share or just want to say you're still with us, type 3 below. I'm reading every word. Number 4, when you talk too much and listen too little. Charles loved a good story. At 84, he had plenty. Stories from his days in the Navy, from raising 4 kids, from the time he met his late wife at a county fair. He told them with energy, detail, and pride. But something began to shift. Family dinners became quieter, not because he spoke less, but because no one else did. His grandkids sat back. His daughter started cleaning dishes early. Conversations turned into monologues, and Charles didn't notice until his youngest grandson skipped his birthday and sent a card that read, "Hope it's a good one, love you." He held that card for a long time. It's a common habit, especially as we get older, talking more than we listen. Not because we don't care, but because we've lived so much. We feel a need to pass on our lessons, to guide, to share what we know. And that's valuable when it's invited. But when it fills all the space, when there's no pause, no invitation for others to speak, it starts to feel one-sided. The problem isn't the talking itself. It's forgetting that listening is just as powerful. You see, in every conversation, people are looking for connection, not a lecture. They want to be heard, not corrected. And when we constantly jump in with advice or a back in my day story, we may be unintentionally silencing the very people we love most. I once had a patient, Leona, who told me she stopped calling her father because I already know how the conversation goes. That broke my heart. Her father wasn't being mean. He just didn't know how to ask questions anymore. Everything became a speech. You can feel this happening when people start pulling back. Shorter phone calls, less eye contact, fewer invitations to talk. It's not because they don't love you, it's because they feel crowded. But here's the good news. This is easy to shift. Next time you're with someone, your grandchild, your neighbor, your spouse, pause. Ask something simple. How are you really doing? Then let the silence stretch a bit. Let them fill it. And when they do, don't rush to relate. Don't jump in with your own version of the story. Just nod, smile, ask another question. Because one of the greatest gifts an elder can give isn't advice. It's attention. When people feel heard, they open up. They draw closer. They trust you more. And ironically, they start seeking your opinion more, not less, because they know you'll offer it with patience, not pressure. So speak with love, but listen with your whole heart. If this chapter touches something inside you, please subscribe to the channel and leave a comment below. It could be a thought, a memory, or just the number 4 to let me know you're still here, still listening, still growing with us. Number 5, when criticizing kids these days builds walls you don't see. Marjorie sat at the kitchen table watching her teenage granddaughter scroll through her phone with lightning speed. She shook her head and muttered, "You kids wouldn't last a day without that thing." Her granddaughter looked up, gave a tight smile, then went back to her screen. That night, Marjorie told her son, "These kids don't care about anything anymore." What she didn't realize was that her granddaughter had overheard and quietly decided she didn't want to sleep over at Grandma's house anymore. It happens more often than we think. A casual comment, a little complaint, a joke about when we were young, and suddenly something shifts. A little space appears between us and the younger people we love. That space grows when criticism becomes a habit. Every generation thinks the next one is a little lost. That's human nature. But when we make it a daily mantra, saying things like "no one wants to work anymore" or "back then we respected our elders," what we're really doing is building a wall, not a wall of protection, a wall of distance. Younger people, whether they're your children, your nieces, or the neighbor's kid, hear more than your words. They hear judgment. They hear rejection. They hear you don't measure up. One of my patients, Dennis, 81, told me proudly, "I tell it like it is. This generation has no backbone." But later he admitted that none of his grandkids ever came to him for advice. They don't listen, he said. But maybe, just maybe, they didn't feel safe enough to try. And here's the heartbreaking part. These kids want your wisdom. They want to learn from your stories. They just don't want to feel small while doing it. There's a better way. Instead of saying kids today are too soft, try asking, What's the hardest part of being young right now? Instead of assuming they're lazy, try understanding the pressures they face, the cost of housing, the endless digital world, the pace of change they were born into. Curiosity creates bridges. Criticism digs moats. You don't have to agree with everything. You don't have to love the music or understand the memes or nod along with every idea. But you do have to listen if you want them to listen back. And when you do, something beautiful happens. They start showing up again. They open up. They ask you questions. They call you just to talk. Not because they have to, but because they want to. Respect goes both ways. And it starts when we choose to see the heart underneath the headphones, the hope inside the hoodie, the humanity behind every screen. If this part made you think, even just a little, please subscribe to the channel and leave a comment below. You can share your thoughts or simply type 5 to let me know you're still here, still reflecting, still growing. Number 6, when you forget the world has changed, but everyone around you notices. Mateo never liked headphones. He thought they were rude. So when he sat in the clinic waiting room watching a young man watch videos on his phone, out loud, he felt frustrated. But the irony was, just 5 minutes earlier, Mateo had been the one talking on speakerphone, describing in detail to his brother his latest blood pressure reading. The people around him shifted in their chairs, avoided eye contact. No one said anything, but everyone felt uncomfortable, and Mateo didn't even realize it. That's the tricky part about modern etiquette. It's not always about big things like yelling or being impolite. It's the small, subtle ways we share space with others. And when we don't adapt to those shifting social rules, people don't correct us. They just quietly move away. In the past, loud conversations in public were more common. Technology was different. Expectations were looser. But today, the rules of social space have changed. Talking loudly on the phone in a waiting room, playing videos without earbuds, or standing too close in line, all of these can make others uncomfortable, even if we mean no harm. One of my patients, Beverly 77, told me she didn't understand why people always change seats when she got on the bus. I'm clean, I don't smell bad, I'm not rude. But then she laughed and said, well, maybe it's because I always ask strangers how their marriages are going. And there it was, she meant well, but her way of interacting felt intrusive in today's world. We don't always realize how our habits land in other people's space. But here's the truth. People rarely say anything. They don't want to offend you. They don't want to seem disrespectful. So instead, they move away, emotionally and physically. But when you make small adjustments, lower your voice in shared places, give others personal space, or simply ask, is this okay if I do this here? Something shifts. People relax around you. They engage, they feel respected. And in return, they respect you more. This isn't about walking on eggshells. It's about showing that you still care how your presence affects some others, that you're still tuned in, still paying attention. And in a world that often rushes past the elderly, someone who moves with quiet awareness stands out. Not for being slow, but for being thoughtful. You can be older and still be current. You can be seasoned and still be considerate. And when you do that, people feel it. And they want to be around you, not because they have to, but because it feels good. If this chapter helped you see something in a new light, I invite you to subscribe to the channel and leave a comment below. Even just a simple 6 lets me know you're still here, still learning, still part of this journey. Number 7, when talking about your health becomes the only thing people hear. Nora had just sat down for Sunday lunch with her family when she began describing her latest doctor's visit. Her knee was still swollen. Her blood pressure was acting up again. She wasn't sleeping well, and the new medication made her dizzy. Her daughter nodded politely. Her son checked his phone. The grandchildren passed the bread quietly. By the time dessert came, the room felt heavy, and Nora didn't notice that no one had asked for a second slice of pie. Here's the thing, getting older comes with health struggles. No one's asking you to pretend they don't exist. But when every conversation becomes a health report, the people around you begin to feel more like medical staff than loved ones. It's not because they don't care. It's because they don't know what to say anymore. Younger people especially, your grandkids, your nieces and nephews, even your neighbors, may not have the tools to respond. They feel helpless. And that helplessness builds distance. I had a patient once, Leonard, 79, who told me, I just want to be honest about how I feel. But when I asked him what else he talked about with his grandson, he paused. I don't know, he said. It's usually about my back or my blood sugar. And that was the problem. Not that he shared, but that he forgot to share anything else. Health is part of your story, but it's not the only part. The garden you're tending, the bird you spotted at the window, the book you're halfway through, the way the sky looked at sunrise. These are also parts of you, parts that bring people closer. When you include those pieces in conversation, it lifts the energy in the room. That's not to say you should hide your struggles. Absolutely not. But choose your timing, choose your audience, and more than anything, choose balance. The people who light up a room in old age aren't the ones who are always healthy. They're the ones who talk about life, not just illness. They remind others, especially the younger generation, that aging is not just about decline. It's about adapting, about perspective, about what still matters. Your aches deserve compassion. Your pain deserves care. But your heart deserves joy, and so do the people around you. So next time someone asks, how are you? Try this. Share one thing about your health and one thing about your life that brings you a little light. You'll be amazed at how the mood shifts. Not just for them, but for you too. If this chapter resonated with you, please subscribe to the channel and leave a comment below. Whether it's a thought, a moment, or just the number 7, I'd love to know you're still here and still growing with us. Number 8, when clinging to old beliefs makes you harder to reach. Eugene was the kind of man who believed in firm handshakes, hard work, and doing things the way they'd always been done. At 82, he'd lived through wars, recessions, and the rise of the internet. But when his granddaughter came out as non-binary, and he scoffed, "What does that even mean?" The room went silent. She left the table early. His daughter didn't say anything, but her face said everything. And Eugene didn't understand what went wrong. You see, many of the beliefs we carry into old age were formed when the world looked very different. They were useful then. Sometimes they were even necessary. But when those beliefs harden into absolutes, when we say, that's just how it is, or people are too sensitive now, we may be closing the door to conversations that really matter. And the most painful part, the people who love you stop opening up, not because they don't care, but because they no longer feel safe to be fully themselves around you. I once had a patient, Rose, who confessed she avoided talking politics or relationships with her father. "He's not a bad man," she said. "He just shuts down anything he doesn't agree with." And so without ever raising his voice or being unkind, her father became a man she couldn't share her real life with anymore. That's what outdated beliefs do. They build walls, not to protect you, but to isolate you. But here's the truth. Staying open doesn't mean surrendering your values. It means listening. It means being willing to learn something new, even if it challenges your view. It means asking, can you help me understand? Instead of declaring, that's wrong. Sometimes that willingness to learn leads to unexpected growth. One man I knew, Raymond, a retired engineer, told me he didn't believe in therapy. "That's just whining," he used to say. But when his wife passed and his daughter gently suggested talking to someone, he agreed. 2 sessions in, he told me, I had no idea how much I needed this. That moment of humility brought him closer to his family than he'd been in years. The world will keep changing. That's not a threat, it's a promise. And the elders who stay connected, respected, and admired are the ones who stay curious, who keep learning, who say, maybe I don't understand it fully, but I'm willing to try. Because wisdom isn't about being right. It's about being real. And real connection begins with openness. If this message sparks something in you, I invite you to subscribe to the channel and leave a comment below. Whether it's your thoughts or just the number 8, your presence here matters more than you know. Number 9, when moving through the world without awareness pushes people away. Gloria was strolling through the grocery store on a quiet Tuesday morning. She parked her cart sideways in the middle of the aisle while she compared labels on 2 boxes of cereal. Behind her, a young woman waited patiently. Then another person approached from the opposite side. The space grew tighter. Eventually, they both squeezed past with polite but strained smiles. Gloria never noticed. She was focused on the ingredients. That's the thing about moving through the world as we age. Our pace may slow, our focus may narrow, and without realizing it, we begin to take up more space than we intend to, not just physically, but socially. And often we don't notice until someone avoids walking next to us or skips offering to go out shopping together. It's not that we're being rude, it's that we've stopped noticing. And here's the hard part. Most people won't say anything. They won't ask you to move your cart. They won't say you're standing too close or blocking the path. They'll just step away, silently, repeatedly, until we become someone they quietly avoid. I had a patient named Carl, a retired postman. He loved walking at the mall for exercise. But one day his daughter told him gently, "Dad, when we walk together, I feel like I'm steering a boat." He laughed at first until he started noticing how often she subtly nudged him back to one side. He realized he'd gotten into the habit of drifting without thinking. It wasn't about speed, it was about awareness, because awareness is grace in motion. It's the choice to step aside in a busy hallway, to keep your cart to one side of the aisle, to pause before you stop in a walkway. These little gestures say something profound. I see you, I care about the flow of this shared space. And when you do that, people feel it. This is especially important in places like airports, clinics, churches, or family events. These are shared environments. And being someone who moves with quiet mindfulness stands out, not as old or slow, but as thoughtful and gracious. You can move carefully and still be respectful. You can take your time and still make room for others. The key is intention. And when your movements show consideration, people instinctively respond with warmth, patience, and yes, admiration. Because being older doesn't mean becoming invisible or immovable. It means leading by example, showing that kindness still has rhythm, that presence still has posture, that dignity doesn't stop with age, it deepens with awareness. If this chapter helps shift your perspective, I'd love for you to subscribe to the channel and leave a comment below. Even if you simply write 9, it tells me you're still walking this path with us, gracefully and with heart. Number 10, when your old jokes don't land the way they used to. Walter always had a reputation for being the funny one. At family barbecues, he could have the whole table roaring with laughter. But lately, things felt different. He cracked a joke about women drivers at a neighborhood potluck, and the laughter was nervous. A few people looked down. His niece left early. That night, Walter told his wife, "People are too sensitive these days." But deep down, he felt something else, left behind. Humor is one of the greatest gifts of aging. It can soften hard moments, ease pain, and bring people together. But not all humor ages well, especially the kind that leans on stereotypes, outdated references, or jokes that once got a laugh but now quietly sting. The world has changed, not just in how we talk, but in what we value: respect, inclusion, awareness. And when our jokes don't grow with us, they become more than just awkward. They become barriers. One of my patients, Irene, shared that her grandson stopped inviting her to his friends' birthday parties. "He says I make people uncomfortable," she said, hurt and confused. When we talked more, she recalled joking about someone's weight last time. "I didn't mean anything by it," she said. But that's the thing. The impact matters more than the intent. And here's what makes this tricky. No one will always tell you when your humor crosses a line. They'll just laugh politely, then keep their distance. This doesn't mean you can't be funny. It means your humor needs to shift, just like everything else that ages with grace. The best kind of jokes in older age? The ones that bring people in, not make someone the punchline. The ones that come from humility, playfulness, and real-time connection, not old scripts. I've seen elders with the warmest presence tell light stories on themselves and have the room in stitches. That kind of humor shows confidence, awareness, and emotional intelligence. It says, "I'm here with you, not above you." And when you laugh at yourself instead of others, something magical happens. People drop their guard, they feel safe, they lean in, they want to hear more. So the next time you're tempted to make a joke that starts with "back in my day," or pokes at someone's identity, pause. Ask yourself, Does this bring people closer or push them away? Because your voice still carries weight. Your words still set the tone. And your humor, when it's kind, thoughtful, and up to date, becomes a bridge, not a wedge. If this message helped you reflect, please subscribe to the channel and leave a comment below. Even something as simple as the number 10 lets me know you're still here, still thinking, still growing. Number 11, when you act helpless, even though you're not. Lillian, at 81, had a sparkle in her eye that never quite faded. But over time, she began saying things like, "I can't figure out this remote, you do it." Or, "Just carry that for me, I'm no good at lifting anymore." Her daughter always helped, of course, her grandson too, but slowly she noticed something strange. Fewer invitations to join in, fewer chances to try. She wasn't being left out because of age. She was being left out because everyone thought she wanted to be. What had started as convenience had quietly turned into disconnection. There's a difference between needing help and defaulting to it out of habit. And that difference is something the people around you feel deeply. At first, they are happy to assist. But when it becomes every little thing, even tasks you could still do, they begin to feel burdened, even if they don't say it out loud. I once worked with a man named Daryl who admitted that he'd been asking his adult children to handle all his paperwork and errands. "It's just easier for them," he said. But when I asked what he'd actually tried to do himself, he went quiet. "Not much," he admitted. "I guess I stopped trying a while ago." And that's the hidden cost of acting helpless. It chips away at your own confidence. It's not always laziness. Sometimes it's fear, fear of doing it wrong, of looking silly, of being slower than you used to be. So you give up the task to someone else. But every time you hand something off, you're still capable of doing. You're not just giving away a chore, you're giving away a piece of your independence. Here's the beautiful truth. People admire effort more than perfection. When your children or grandchildren see you trying, struggling a little but staying engaged, they feel pride, not pity. They lean in with support that comes from respect, not obligation. They trust you more because you're not pretending. You're participating. That doesn't mean you shouldn't ask for help. It means asking when you truly need it and standing tall when you don't. It means saying, "Let me try first," instead of "just do it for me." It means learning the new phone slowly, carrying the small bag, opening your own container, even if it takes a little longer. Because those little victories matter. They remind you of your strength. They show your family that you're still fully here. And they inspire everyone around you, not with perfection, but with presence. If this message meant something to you, I invite you to subscribe to the channel and leave a comment below. Even just a simple 11 tells me you're still here, still showing up for yourself and for the people who love you. Number 12, when being right becomes more important than being kind. George had always been sharp. A former accountant, he prided himself on precision, facts, dates, doing things the proper way. But over the years, his family noticed something. Conversations with him felt like debates. He corrected details and stories. He insisted his way was better. He rolled his eyes at new ideas. One afternoon, his grandson quietly asked his mom, "Why does Grandpa always have to win?" That question lingered in the air. There's something deeply human about wanting to be right, especially after a lifetime of experience, lessons learned the hard way, and knowledge gained over decades. But when that desire to be right overrides connection, something important is lost. The irony? Most people won't argue back. They won't challenge you. They'll just stop talking as openly. They'll keep the conversation light. They'll stay quiet, not out of respect, but out of fatigue. And over time, being right starts to feel lonely. I once spoke with a woman named Teresa. She was in her late 70s and said, "I don't understand why my kids don't ask for my advice anymore. I used to help them with everything." When we unpacked it, she realized she'd always corrected them, even when they didn't ask. "I thought I was helping," she said softly, "but maybe I was just trying to stay in control." That was her breakthrough, because sometimes clinging to being right is about more than the issue. It's about fear, fear of losing relevance, fear of being overlooked, fear that if we don't assert what we know, we'll disappear. But the truth is, people remember how you made them feel far more than whether you were right. Being wise doesn't mean having the final word. It means knowing when to hold back. It means letting others explore their own path, even when you disagree. It means saying, I see it differently, but I respect your view. You'll be amazed how people start coming to you more, not because they need a fact checker, but because they trust you. They feel heard. And when you do speak, your words carry weight because they're not battling for space. They're grounded, they're calm, they matter. So next time you feel the urge to correct someone, pause, ask yourself, is this about being helpful or just being right? Then breathe, let it go, and listen instead. Because in the end, the strongest legacy isn't in how many arguments you win. It's in how many hearts you open. If this closing chapter spoke to you, please subscribe to the channel and leave a comment below. Just typing 12 is enough to show you're still here, still reflecting, still walking with us toward deeper connection. Conclusion: aging is not a decline, it's a deepening of wisdom, of presence, of the quiet strength that says, I'm still here and I still matter. The habits we talked about today don't make you a bad person. They don't erase the love you've given or the lives you've touched. But they are gentle reminders, signposts that help us stay awake in a world that often asks us to disappear with time. And you don't have to. You can still light up a room. You can still be someone others want to sit beside, to talk to learn from, not because you shout the loudest, but because you listen with heart, speak with kindness, and carry yourself with quiet dignity. So take a breath. Think back on the stories we explored. And if even one of them sparks something in you, a moment of recognition, a memory, a nudge, know this: you still have time to shift, to soften, to reconnect. It's never too late to grow closer to the people who matter. And sometimes it only takes one small change to open the door again. If this video moved you in any way, please like it, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell so you don't miss future reflections like this one. Thank you for spending your time with me today. And wherever you are, I wish you peace, presence, and the kind of connection that never fades with age.